Welcome back and thank you for joining me. Go ahead and grab yourself a glass of water, a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and let's get into today's lesson, which will be Leviticus 17. So open up your Bible there. As always, wherever you may be hearing this podcast, give it a comment, a like, whatever it is you need to do to spread the word. Hey, let your family and friends know there's a brother out here going through every book of the Bible, verse by verse. Everything is going to be in its context. That way we get every single thing that the Lord wanted us to get out of the scriptures. As always, we will start by reading and then we will get into the lesson. Leviticus 17, and let's read.
Leviticus 17. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to Aaron and his sons, and to all the Israelites, and say to them, This is what the Lord has commanded. Any Israelite who sacrifices an ox, a lamb, or a goat in the camp or outside of it, instead of bringing it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to the Lord in front of the tabernacle of the Lord, that man shall be considered guilty of bloodshed. He has shed blood, and must be cut off from his people. This is so the Israelites will bring to the Lord the sacrifices they are now making in the open fields. They must bring them to the priest, that is, to the Lord, at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and sacrifice them as fellowship offerings. The priest is to sprinkle the blood against the altar of the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and burn the fat as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. They must no longer offer any of their sacrifices to the goat idols to whom they prostitute themselves. This is to be a lasting ordinance for them and for the generations to come. Say to them, Any Israelite or any alien living among them who offers a burnt offering or sacrifice and does not bring it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to the Lord, that man must be cut off from his people. Any Israelite or any alien living among them who eats any blood, I will set my face against that person who eats blood and will cut him off from his people. For the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for yourselves on the altar. It is the blood that makes atonement for one's life. Therefore I say to the Israelites, None of you may eat blood, nor may any alien living among you eat blood. Any Israelite or any alien living among you who hunts an animal or bird that may be eaten must drain out the blood and cover it with earth, because the life of every creature is its blood. That is why I have said to the Israelites, You must not eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is its blood. Anyone who eats it must be cut off. Anyone, whether native-born or alien, who eats anything found dead or torn by wild animals must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be ceremonially unclean till evening. Then he will be clean. But if he does not wash his clothes and bathe himself, he will be held responsible."
Now, the last time we were together, we looked at the law of atonement. Today, we will be looking at the blood for atonement. The point of this chapter is to remind Israel that to worship God, that it was to be done his way and not how they or even we in this time think that it should be done. This chapter also focuses on one place of sacrifice, a goat worship, sacrifice at the tabernacle, and the obligation not to eat blood. Now, we have broken this chapter down into 5 parts. Part 1, this was commanded of God. We notice in verses 1 and 2 of Leviticus 17. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, so as always, we see who the Lord is speaking with. Verse 2, speak to Aaron and to his sons and to all the sons of Israel, and say to them, This is what the Lord has commanded. Part 2, in order to not be cut off from his people, the animal had to be brought to the doorway of the tent. We see this in verses 3 through 7. Any man from the house of Israel who slaughters an ox or a lamb or a goat in the camp, or who slaughters it outside the camp, and has not brought it to the doorway of the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to the Lord before the tabernacle of the Lord, blood guiltiness is to be reckoned to that man. He has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people. The reason is so that the sons of Israel may bring their sacrifice, which they were sacrificing in the open field, that they may bring them in to the Lord at the doorway of the tent of meeting to the priest, and sacrifice them as sacrifices of peace offerings to the Lord. And the priest shall sprinkle the blood on the altar of the Lord at the doorway of the tent of meeting, and offer it up the fat in smoke as a soothing aroma to the Lord. And they shall no longer sacrifice their sacrifices to the goat demons with which they played a harlot. This shall be a permanent statute to them throughout their generations. Now we see that the Lord is very specific on how they had to slaughter the sacrifice and where it had to be brought to. But don't overlook what we see in verse 7 when he said they shall no longer sacrifice their sacrifices to the goat demons. Remember, what's going on here is that the Lord is calling the people unto himself, and what he's doing is he is getting rid of all of the bad habits that they learned for all of those years that they were in Egypt. Part 3. The offering had to be where God said. We see this in verses 8 and 9. Then you shall say to them, any man from the house of Israel or from the aliens who sojourn among them who offers a burnt offering or sacrifice and does not bring it to the doorway of the tent of meeting to offer it to the Lord, that man shall be cut off from his people. So the Lord is very clear. It had to be brought to the doorway. It couldn't be brought on the side. It couldn't be brought to the back. Remember, they had to do everything as the Lord commanded, not how they wanted to do it. He is a God of order, and he has given them the order of which to do these things. Part 4. Whoever ate any blood was cut off from God's people. We see this in verses 10 through 14. And any man from the house of Israel or from the aliens who sojourn among them who eats any blood, I will set my face against that person who eats blood and will cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make atonement for your souls. For it is the blood by reason of the life that makes atonement. Therefore, I said to the sons of Israel, no person among you may eat blood, nor may any alien who sojourns among you eat blood. So when any man from the sons of Israel or from the aliens who sojourn among them in hunting catches a beast or a bird which may be eaten, he shall pour out his blood and cover it with earth. For as for the life of all flesh, its blood is identified with its life. Therefore, I said to the sons of Israel, you are not to eat the blood of any flesh, for the life of all flesh is its blood. Whoever eats it shall be cut off. Now, don't overlook the blood here. It is the blood that can save your life and soul. It was true here in the Old Testament and is repeated in the New Testament. Real quickly, keep your finger right here in Leviticus 17, but turn to Hebrews. All right, give me Hebrews, and I want chapter 9. Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 22. According to the law, one may almost say all things are cleansed with blood, and without shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. So we see that it's true in the Old Testament. We also see it true in the New Testament. And let's stay here for a minute. Now that we're back in Leviticus 17, and let's talk about this eating of blood. Now, there are some out there who will say that, well, see, this is telling us that you aren't supposed to eat animals because animals have blood in them. And when you, let's say, for example, eat a steak and you see the red inside of the steak, well, that's blood. Well, that's actually not true. This is information you can look up for yourself. That is not blood that you see in the steak. You got to remember that when an animal is slaughtered, when an animal is shed, whether it was back in those days, thousands of years ago, or today, the blood is completely drained out. If you live around hunters, and I may have talked about this before, if you have any hunters in your family or you live around hunters, you would notice that when they have a deer, they hang the deer upside down, and it's usually out there for a day or so. What are they doing with that? What they are doing is that they are getting all of the blood out of the deer. So that way, when it's time to take it to be processed, or if they process it themselves, there is no blood in the deer. It's the same way with a cow. When they take a cow to a slaughterhouse and they're getting it prepped, they don't just start butchering the cow and prepping the meat. They take the cow, they hang it upside down, and they make sure that all of the blood is drained out of it. So when you eat it, there is no blood. Another thing is this, is that there is nowhere in these scriptures where the Lord tells us not to eat any animals. The thing is this, is that these animals had to be sacrificed. And as we read in the previous verses, that the life is in the blood. And as long as there's blood flowing in the animal and the animal is alive, and that is what you are not supposed to eat. But if the animal is dead and the blood has been shed, there is no life in it, and it's okay to eat. Listen, the Lord was not going to let this meat for these sacrifices go to waste. That's why after Genesis 3, when sin came into the world, he made it okay for us to eat meat. Where, in the beginning, we were not eating meat. But because the Lord knew that sacrifices were going to have to be made, then the Lord made it okay for us to eat animals. We will continue on. Part 5. You were guilty if you ate an animal that was torn apart or had died unless he washed his clothes. We see this in verses 15 and 16 to close out the chapter. When any person eats an animal which dies or is torn by beasts, whether he is a native or an alien, he shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and remain unclean until evening. Then he will be clean. But if he does not wash them or bathe his body, then he shall bear his guilt. And that is pretty straightforward. Is that, like it says right there, when you eat an animal that dies or is torn apart, he tells you what you had to do. You had to wash, you had to wash your clothes, and then you yourself had to bathe in water. Okay, people, that brings us to the end of Leviticus chapter 17. Hope this lesson was very helpful. As always, spread the word. Give it a comment wherever you remember. This podcast is pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. And I want you all to know that I appreciate you very much for taking time out of your morning, afternoon, or evening to listen to me go through the word of God. Next time when we get together, we will be going over Leviticus 18, laws of immoral relations. That is all for now. God bless.